Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the NHL 2018 Draft Lottery, my predictions, and how I see the draft lining up. So tomorrow is the Draft Lottery where we'll see the picks going, and yes, if you were wondering, I am going to be live streaming during it. They're doing this weird thing that they've done for like the past couple of seasons where they've been putting off like the 15th to 4 picks through before the Vegas Sharks game, and then during the second intermission or something like that, they'll have the 3 through 1 picks. So they're going to drag this out as long as they can. Unfortunately for me, streaming is going to have to be a trouble there. I don't know if I'm going to make one giant stream or have 2 separate streams for the middle picks and for the first 3 picks. I'll have to decide that sooner than later. Well, the Draft Lottery is almost here, one of my favorite times of the year. We'll see lots of jumps for sure, as we've seen times before. So the standings, of course, goes as follows: Buffalo first, Ottawa second, Arizona third, Montreal fourth, Detroit 5th, Vancouver 6th, 7 Chicago, 8 New York Rangers, 9 Edmonton, 10 New York Islanders, 11 Carolina, Calgary at number 12, which is the New York Islanders pick now, Dallas at 13, St. Louis, Philadelphia now has their pick, and Florida at 15. So 2 picks that used to belong to a team that are now on a different team. Of course, you got the Calgary one that is now with the New York Islanders at number 12. It has St. Louis at Philadelphia now at that number 14 spot. But of course, those are just the odds. Those are the standings. So let's look through the odds now. So we'll start with Buffalo. They have an 18.5% chance at that first overall pick. Ottawa at number 2, 13.5. Arizona at third, 11.5. Montreal, 9.5. Detroit, 8.5. Vancouver, 7.5. Chicago at 6.5. New York Rangers at 6.6. Exactly. Then you have Edmonton at 5. New York Islanders at 3.5. Carolina at 3%. Calgary, which is now the New York Islanders pick, at number 12, 2.5. Dallas, 2%. Then St. Louis with Philadelphia's pick now at Philadelphia, 1.5%. And Florida at their last pick with a measly 1%. So of course, over the last couple of years, every team has had a percentage for a first overall pick, and that's staying true in this season's draft lottery. So the Florida Panthers, I know it's unlikely, but they could somehow, some way get first overall pick. It is extremely unlikely, but it still is a possibility. So any of these teams could jump up. So now on to my jinxing. Let's look at my predictions. At number 15, I have Florida staying at number 15. I don't see them coming up any further. I'm just having them stay where they are at. At 14, St. Louis pick that is now with Philadelphia Flyers. I have staying at number 14. I don't see that moving it up at all either. At number 13, I say Carolina dropping a little bit onto 13th pick. They were slotted at 11th overall, or at least in the draft lottery 11th overall, but I see them slipping back down to 13th. At number 12 and 11, I have the New York Islanders having that 12 and 11 spot, having back-to-back picks there. I see that the NHL it has had a lot of recent teams at least having back-to-back picks. I'm going to see the New York Islanders having back-to-back picks here. I don't see them moving up, at least with that Calgary pick. Then at number 10, it might be my bias, but I think the NHL will give a little bit more rigged side to the Dallas Stars. Of course, having the draft Dallas. I'm going to say if the Dallas Stars move up from 13 to 10, not a huge jump, but a little bit of a jump there to get a better pick at number 10. At number 9, I'm going a little bit of a risky side, but I see Montreal dropping all the way down to number 9. I think they're slotted at number 4 overall for that draft lottery, but I see the Montreal Canadiens dropping to 9th overall. That is a risky play right there, but I do believe that there's some teams that'll jump up ahead of them. At number 8, I have the Detroit Red Wings, and they could jump up as far as I'm concerned. They could go to first overall. Again, a lot of these teams, even Montreal, could be that high. I just predicting there's a lot of parity here. I mean, Montreal could be 9th. They could be first overall. There's lots of options here for these middling teams, but I see Detroit at number 8. At number 7, I have the Edmonton Oilers, and I proceed with caution because, yeah, they can pull a first overall pick out of their hats anytime that they want to, and they're looking prime. They have a good opportunity there at 9th overall. They still have decent odds with 5%. It's good for the Edmonton Oilers. It's good enough for them to get first overall, but I feel like Edmonton will get up a little bit, but not too much. I feel like they'll get 7th overall, but not enough to make the top 3. I mean, if they do that, I think NHL Twitter would be furious, but I think that they'll jump up 2 spots, and if they jump up a lot more than that, I don't know what I'll do with myself. Speaking of teams I don't want to win the draft lottery, we have Chicago at number 6, and I desperately do not want them to win the draft lottery. I have them moving up a little bit to number 6, moving up 1 spot from 7th in the standings, but I mean, if they win the draft lottery, I don't know what I'm going to do myself. I'll protest the NHL. I'll do anything I can because Chicago win the draft lottery. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with myself. That's just the worst nightmare right now for me. If they win the draft lottery, they could be right back in next season. But I predict them to be 6th overall, just jumping up a little bit. I mean, if they win the draft lottery, I know, again, I don't want to live life after that. But I think Chicago will move a little bit, but don't win it. Just do not win it. Now at number 5, I have the Ottawa Senators moving from 2nd in the standings to 5th in the lottery, and mostly because I want to punish Melnick, but I think this might actually happen. I think the Ottawa Senators will move down. I think their lottery luck hasn't been great in their whole franchise, really, but I really want them to move down just to punish Melnick. That's really the only reason I'm predicting that. They might still be in the top 3, but I just want to punish Melnick, get out of that top 5 if they can, but I think he'll get in top 5. I think they'll have that 5 spot. At number 4, I have the Arizona Coyotes. Now, they were 3rd in the standings to 4th. I think they'll drop down just a little bit, just a tad. Not too much like a team like Montreal, but I think they'll drop off just a little bit to make some room for other teams. But I think that Arizona at number 4 will happen. I think they just haven't had the draft luck lately, and I think that will continue. I just feel like Arizona is just getting punished year after year, and I think that will continue for them, sadly, but I think it's the way that is. Now, on to the top 3, of course, the ones that'll be announced a couple of hours from the rest of the 4 through 15, but the top 3 is Vancouver, Buffalo, and New York, not in that order, but the top 3 is very interesting. What teams will go in there, what teams will get luck, especially going into this draft, is going to be very, very crucial, because of course this is a fantastic draft, and the top 3 is looking to be stellar. So at number 3, I have the Buffalo Sabres moving from 1st in that, I guess, lottery standings down to 3, not all the way down to 4th. I think they'll get that 3rd spot just barely clinging on, but of course they're dropping once again, tanking, but not able to get that pick, that 1st overall pick, not able to get Dahlin. I think they'll just be just a hair, just a scratch away from him. I think they'll be at number 3. Still a great pick, but not quite Dahlin. At number 2, I have the Vancouver Canucks moving up to 2nd overall. Not quite 1st overall, but 2nd. They had the 6th overall chances, I guess. They had a 7.5%. I think they're going to move up to 2nd place. They could move up just in the top 3. I think they'll move up to 2nd place, though. I think at number 2, that's a good spot for them. And, of course, they won't get that franchise guy that they really need in Dahlin, but they'll be able to get a very nice player in Svechnikov or Zadania. I think that'll really help them, and they can get a great player there. Again, I think Dahlin is a perfect fit for them, but I think they'll just be a hair away from it. Not quite there yet. And at number 1, the only team that I haven't mentioned quite yet, at number 1, I have the New York Rangers. We've seen this time after time again. In last season's draft lottery, New Jersey was around where New York was. I mean, they were around, I think they were 9th overall, where the Edmonton Oilers are now. I think the New Jersey Devils last season got a huge jump. I think there's prime opportunity for another team in that area to get it once again. I think the New York Rangers need him, and I think it'll be a huge help for that franchise. I think that they'll jump over. I think that they'll get the 1st overall pick. Now, there's lots of options. And of course, it could be Edmonton that gets that jump. It could be the New York Islanders who get that jump. But I think that the New York Rangers, Dahlin in one of the best markets in the NHL, the rebuild could be there. It's pretty much a retool at this point. How fast the Rangers have rebuilded throughout this year. And Dahlin, of course, would speed that up. It's a huge market. And Dahlin could be fantastic with New York. And it would be a great team to go with Dahlin. And I think that it could work out. I think that it would fit. And I think that Dahlin would be a great New York Ranger. Again, we saw New Jersey jump up all the way last season in that draft lottery. I could see the same thing happening here, and that's exactly what I see happening. We could see just the Buffalo Sabres getting 1st overall pick, but again, that's not fun at all. We want to see a team that's 9th overall jump all the way up like last season. Last season was amazing, where we saw Philadelphia Flyers, New Jersey Devils, and the Stars out of nowhere get those top 3 picks. I want to see another team jump like last season, and the New York Rangers are going to be that team. But of course, with that, we have teams falling like the Montreal Canadiens, the Detroit Red Wings. We have teams falling like the Ottawa Senators, Arizona Coyotes. With teams coming up, there must be teams to go down. I think it's about time that Vancouver finally gets a good pick out of the draft for once. Of course, them not having a great season, I think that's finally time for them to rise up once again. For Buffalo, it would be disappointing, but you're still getting a top 3 picks, so it is still a pretty successful season, at least from the draft standpoint. But of course, I cannot wait for these predictions to be completely wrong, for New York to somehow drop down, for Vancouver to stay where they are and not come up, and for Buffalo to somehow get 4th overall. Can't wait for my predictions to look so bad that it's just scary. But again, a team like New York Rangers could just stay there. It could be Edmonton rising up to that top top 3 spot. It could be Detroit rising up to that top 3 spot. There's a lot of teams in that middle of the pack area that we saw last season, like New Jersey, rise up. It could not be the New York Rangers. It could be another team. There's a lot of teams that are primed for that opportunity. And of course, there's an opportunity for every team on this list to get first overall. The less likely it is, the higher they're up in the standings. But again, there is a chance for every single team to jump up, which makes it as fun as can be. So we can see some even bigger surprises than I even listed. New York Rangers could not even be the biggest surprise. Maybe like a team like New York Islanders jump up. Carolina could happen, like Flyers last season where they were in that 13-12 spot. Carolina could surprise us all. But again, it's always one of my favorite events from the year to see who rises, who falls, and all the names going by, all the picks going by. It's fantastic and one of my favorite times of the year. Again, this year's draft lottery is going to be very interesting. Again, a lot of these picks are going to be very good. A lot of these players are very good earlier in these drafts. So a lot of these teams are going to get some great players at least earlier in these draft selections. So of course, rising up is going to be very valuable for a lot of teams. But the hockey gods, I literally only want one thing to come from this. Please, for the love of everything holy, do not let the Chicago Blackhawks get in the top 3. The Blackhawks get in top 3, like let's say they get the first overall pick. I don't know what I'm going to do myself. Just do not let that happen. I don't care if the Edmonton Oilers win. I don't care who wins it. Just do not let it be Chicago. For everything holy. Just please, please do not be Chicago. That's pretty much the only thing I want. Just let it not be Chicago. It's basically the equivalent of it's Pittsburgh misses the playoffs next season, then gets the first overall pick. It's going to be crazy if they do that. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be live streaming. I don't know if I'm going to make 2 separate live streams. One during the 15 for 4 picks, and the other one for the 3 for 1. I don't know if I'm going to have one whole live stream. I'm going to have to decide that tomorrow, but be there for the live stream tomorrow because at least one is going to happen. So stay tuned, but it is going to be very fun when it happens. But that's going to, guys. Like, subscribe, and not ring that bell button. Tell me down below what your predictions are for the draft lottery, who you think your top 3 will be, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.